Hello, everybody. I am Ramon Galvez. If you're noticing that my clothes are wet, that is because they are wet. I just had to wash my face before I started recording this. It's been a real long few days trying to get this together. And sadly, I don't think I'm going to be able to make a 1 hour video out of this because there's no participation parts. But regardless, I did work super hard on this and to get it as perfect as I can. And so here it is, giving it to you guys in a hyperdoc. The hyperdoc will have all of the links that you need, including the handout. The hyperdoc is the handout itself. I'm calling it a hyperdoc because it has the links to this video and other sources. Anyways, Microteaching Complementations by me, yours truly. Okie doke, so let's get started. What is complementations? In the book, it says that complementations are complement clauses. These are subordinating clauses that complete the meaning of a given verb, adjective, noun, hence the name. Complementation sounds like complementations. It completes the meaning, making things more impactful. Here are the three types. We have that clauses, infinitives, and gerunds. For example, Jack believed that Jill went up a hill. You want to ask that question, what did Jack believe? The answer is that Jill went up a hill. That is the subclause that completes the meaning of the word believed. Side note, the word that can be omitted in conversational and informal writing. For example, Jack believed Jill went up a hill. So you can actually remove the word that, which means you can't really control find the word that and then be confident that whatever the preceding words is part of the complement. Sometimes it doesn't have the word that and you still get the complement, Jill went up the hill. The infinitive version of this is just basically the verb form that has the word to included in it. So I would like to go to the movies. The infinitive is to. To go is the verb that completes the meaning of what the subject would like to do, which is go to the movies. The gerund version of this, the gerund basically is a verb getting used as a noun. So I enjoy going to the movies. So going to the movies completes the sentence, I enjoy. What do they enjoy? Going to the movies. Going to the movies. Going is the process of, or rather the action of going. Just keep an eye on gerunds, the N and ing. Yep. There you go. I just said these things. So here's an example, part 2, of finding complementations in real world texts, meaning like published out there in the world. I used Rashid's Managing Effective Grammar Focused Instruction, the instruction and reinforcement of grammar through games. This is the article that we're supposed to read for next week's discussion board, due on the 27th, which I believe is Sunday. And so I put the abstract in here kind of to do you a favor so you can actually get started in reading the article while participating in this video I'm making, in this lesson plan I made, in this document, this micro-teaching document that I made. So here's the abstract. And I basically just put bold what I think are the complement clauses. Most of these are the ones that starts with that, but here's one that's an infinitive. I do have an advanced question though, because this first sentence, nice and long. Malaysian ESL learners have often been criticized that their communicative competence is limited. And although they have learned English for at least 11 years at school level and a few years in tertiary education, majority of them still show difficulties in employing the language. So for sure, this is a complement clause, but I feel like and although kind of says, and that, invisible that, although they have learned English, and I understand that this is an although statement, so it's a subordinating clause before the main thing. So this is really like a complex sentence that's complex among complex sentences. My question is, would this be two subordinating? I'm sorry, would this be two complement clauses? This one and that one? Because this one has an invisible that and also completes the idea. Anyway, you're not here to answer anything. So I'm gonna move on. Yeah, here's the examples that I found in here. Honestly, I would have loved to ask you guys if you see more than what I've highlighted, and that would have been a good warm up, but oh well. Yeah, the author upholds that grammatical competence is the root of the issue. And again, the word and, it feels like another complement. There's two complement clauses in this sentence as well. Anyway, let's move on because it's late and I need to sleep. Common problems and errors. Gets a little bit messy here. There are going to be, I went with the route of getting you guys to, suggesting, I guess, because I'm not testing you guys, to memorize the verbs that basically signal complement clauses. So here is part 3, common problems and errors. So the full clausal that complements with tense verbs are like these. Students often associate the word that with complement clauses, but it isn't always that. I already kind of went over this. That's the type of bird I was telling you about. This sentence does not have a complement clause. That is a demonstrative. It's just pointing. It's just pointing. I believe that that's the type of bird I was telling you about. See, now that I added I believe, then that's the type of bird I was telling you about is the subordinating, sorry, the complementing clause. The first that in this sentence is not demonstrative. It is what we call a complementizer, as it is the start of the complement clause. That's the type of bird I was telling you about. Students should also note that complementizers can also be omitted. Like I said earlier, I believe that's the type of bird I was telling you about is basically, not basically, it is exactly the same sentence as the previous example, but the complementizer that has been removed. Go over here. So don't try to control find that and assume that everything after that until the period is the complementing clause. It's not the way. I think the best way is to recognize the kinds of verbs that signal it. So here are the verbs. Believe, claim, expect, know, assume, conclude, decided, discover, explain, feel, find out, guess, hear, hope, imagine, learn, mean, notice, perceive, point out, promise, prove, realize, recognize, say, see, show, suggest, suppose, think, understand, and wish. That's interesting. There's not this list. This list is from the book, and it does not include argue. Ramon argues that fires are bad for your health. So that works. Subtract that. Ramon argues fires are bad for your health. Still works, still works. I guess it's not a completely comprehensive list. So just keep an eye on one of those verbs that keep an eye on those verbs that I guess it's like verbs that beg for more information, right? When you say she argues, the person next to you will be like, what? Whatever that answer, whatever that question, whatever the answer is to that question, that is the complementing clause. Okie dokes. Moving on, there's the tenseless kind of subjunctive that complements. So this is where like a specific rule, it's just the type of stuff that you just have to memorize. For example, they insist that this student signs up for a counselor. So if you say, if you delete this student signs up for a counselor, that's actually a correct sentence. But if you put they insist that, then you have to get rid of the S The explanation is it does the verb in the complementing clause doesn't get transformed into any form, whether it's tense, past present tense, or whether it's subject verb agreement. It just uses the I guess I forgot what it's called, but it's the most raw form of a verb. Here's another one. The customer demanded that the store return his money. That's wrong. I know it's hard to recognize that it's wrong, but the book says it's wrong, and that's the end of the story. The right way of saying this is the customer demanded that his money be returned. And I got to be honest, that sounds better than the previous one. I personally wouldn't call it wrong because the number 3, wrong, because I can totally understand what you're saying. But if we're going to be prescriptive about it, the customer demanded that his money be returned sounds better. It just sounds better. And that's kind of how I gauge everything. I don't know how I came to develop such a way of measurement, but I have a tendency to know what sounds better in English than doesn't. Number 5, we insist that he do or does not make the telephone call. That's wrong. The correct form is we insist that he not make the telephone call. So we insist that he do not make the telephone call. We insist that he not make the telephone call. It's what the book says. Just do what the book says, because that's how it goes. But if I can support the prescription, it also sounds better. We insist that he does not make the telephone call. We insist that he not make the telephone call. Just take it. No worries, no worries. I'm not testing you guys. Infinitive complements. Yeah, so these are the common errors in infinitives. Okay, so we're gonna go over 3 types. There are more types, but the other 2 types doesn't seem like would be, I don't think students would be error prone in the other 2, the last 2, but these first 3, it bears review. So the believe type is the type that sentences that use the word believe. And it'll use variations of the word believe, like assume, find, know, perceive, prove, show, think, and understand. But yeah, it's really that basic. So here's some examples. The reason why I'm so into examples, you guys, is because I'm pretty sure we can get the people to talk in an understandable level through examples. I really think that when we start hitting them with a lot of words like infinitives, complementizers, it's too, even the word complementizers, it's like 5 syllables long. It's like overwhelming. We're basically using bigger words to explain smaller concepts. just so I'm just gonna my thing right now, and maybe I'll change my mind in the future, but my thing right now is get the people to be understandable. That's it. So I'm going to use examples. So in belief type, here's a wrong example. The students believe the professor too can do almost anything. You know, people who aren't intermediate or advanced in the English language, up until this point, probably have gotten robust instruction on infinitives and modals. So to address the tendency of the students to do that, here's an example of what not to do. And then here's the example of the correct version. The students believe the professor can do almost anything. Sounds good. Sounds good. Do not put two with modals. Okay, so this next one is the students believe she to be amazing. Wrong. The students believe her to be amazing. Correct. The first example is subject form, right? This is a pronoun. This is the pronoun situation. So she, he, those are subject form pronouns. Her is the object form of pronouns. So you got to use the object form. There's like a complicated explanation in the textbook, but just know that it sounds better. The students believe she to be amazing sounds not good. It's her. It's the object. Okay. Verbs that signal belief type complements. Oh, I already went over this. Next is advice type. Watch out for these verbs because they're going to need a noun phrase or a noun phrase replacement pronoun as an indirect object before the complement. Here's the list. Advise, allow, cause, enable, force, get, help, permit, persuade, tell, urge. Our parents allowed us to stay up late. The wind caused the canopy to fall. I told my sister to wash the dishes. So you have to watch out for these because it needs an indirect object. What is the thing happening to? Okay, attempt type. Verbs of attempt type infinitives include attempt, tend, begin, continue, decide, fail, forget, hope, manage, offer, proceed, promise, refuse, regret, remember, start, try, and vow. This one should be your future student's favorite. It's pretty easy to come up with. I attempt or try something. You'll see later on in the lesson plan that I did use the attempt type a lot. Makes easy examples. The radio station continues to play horrible music, right? So that's continues. Or sorry, continues is the verb. To play is the infinitive. We proceeded to sell off most of our furniture. She forgot to buy. These are the infinitives that mark the complementizer clause. I promised him to work harder next time. This is the part where it's a bit different. This is the only exception to the rule according to what I saw in the book. So the whole thing with this is the subject of the sentence in all other cases is the subject of the complement clause. So that radio station is also the thing that's playing. We is proceeding and we are selling. It's the same noun that's doing both of the verbs. This one the subject and the object are different. So with promise is different. So part 4, the lesson plan. According to the Cepher website, complementations are usually begun being taught at B2. I created a lesson plan because I simply couldn't do this assignment without getting a little extra. Yeah. So quickly to go over this, because I'm getting really tired. Yeah, okay. So the warm-up that I came up with is, I think I read it towards the end of the chapter in the book, where it starts to suggest like ways of teaching this to ESLs. Yeah, the game is just, what do you see? What did you see? So I'll get up and I'll open the door very slowly. And then as I'm opening it, while I'm opening it, I go, what do you see? Because it's present tense. And then hopefully I can coax somebody to yell out, we see that you're closing the door, or I see that you're closing the door. But if they're having a hard time, or maybe I'll do it anyway for scaffolding purposes, I can start the sentence. We see that I'm opening the door, you're opening the door. And then I'll close the door very quickly, and then I'll ask in a past tense manner, what did you see? We saw that you closed the door. So that you closed the door is the complement clause. There's another way. We see that you're closing the door. I wonder if there's like a gerund way to answer this. Well, my brain can't come up with one right now. But moving on. Yeah, so I'll do that for about 10 minutes. Doesn't need any materials. And this is a whole class involvement. I'm just trying to get them riled up. I'll probably like do a lot of movements and like get them excited, make them laugh. You know how it goes? The presentation, this particular assignment was very specific in it asked for like a diagram, a chart, and visuals, but complementizers are so far down the line that I could not find a single diagram, chart, or visual easily explaining um, what what complementations are. So I had to resort to finding appropriately lengthed YouTube videos. These two YouTube videos together makes 15 minutes. But honestly, if the assignment didn't ask for materials like what it asked for this, the presentation part, um, which I think is part 4A, I would just make my own video, or I would just actually do a pedagogy, like actually teach the lesson myself in front of class. I almost wanted to put this video in this. uh, hopefully, hopefully this is okay with Professor B because I really want a good grade on this. Anyway, yeah. So it explains these are like these two videos are like the basic way of explaining complementizers. I honestly watched both videos, and the complementations lessons that I'm giving you guys is more complicated than these videos put. I'm having a hard time talking. Okay. Yeah, presentation. So at this point, after this point, they'll know pretty good idea of what it is. They already did the warm up, and I basically tricked them into making complementation sentences. And then what they did will get reinforced by these videos or my lesson. And then the controlled practice, which is the thing that it's like easier than fill in the blank because they don't, because fill in the blank, they have to produce their own language. This one is the words are here already, and they just have to figure out the correct version of each of these sentences. And I'll group them up in 9 groups, and then I'll have them all work on all 9. And then I'll call on each group to answer one question out loud, sharing. And in this part, there will be a lot of correcting the teacher, who is me in this example, will be visiting a lot of the groups over the 15 minutes, listening in, making corrections, and then once towards the end, maybe after minute 10, when I'll have everybody come back together as one group, and then we'll go over the answers. And in that part, a lot of correcting will happen. It's kind of a critical part to do the corrections a lot, because the more they understand it at this point, the better they'll do on the next assignments. The guided practice is kind of interesting. I will have this is a short quiz. And I will have this quiz sheet prepared before class, printed out to the amount of students that I have. The top of this quiz will have 3 examples, as I have it here. In all of these examples, the answers are of a different type. The first one is a gerund complementation. The second one is a infinitive complementation, and the third one is a that complementation. So I have here 7 questions. I pulled them from the textbook. But these questions in particular force the answerer to answer in complementation sentences. Where have you decided to go on vacation, in your vacation next year? What do you hate most to do? What do you love most to do? What do you hate most for someone else to do? What do you love most for someone else to do? What do you intend to study? What does your family intend for you to study? Yeah. So in this first one, it's kind of like this last one. What did your doctor recommend? The doctor recommended that I stop eating carbohydrates. The question forces them. If they answer in full sentences, the question forces them to create complement sentences with complements. What I wanted to say was there really isn't a wrong answer like such that, no, you're supposed to say Hawaii. Instead, you said Spain. No, it wouldn't be like that. It would be more like, did you answer this in a complement, a sentence with a complement? So their information could pertain to their actual life, which is great, in my opinion, because it gets them involved. But the main point is to make sure that they're answering in sentences that have complement clauses. Yeah, and that actually leads into the free practice. So the teacher divides students in pairs, and I'm going to say, we're going to do a little role play. You're going to ask each other these quiz questions and then say out loud your answers. Take turns. After 10 minutes, I will collect the quizzes and get back to you next time to address common names. T walks around and chimes in, dropping corrections onto pairs for the next 10 minutes. So yeah, that's a good ending, I think, where one of the pair asks the question, the other one answers whatever they read out loud what they wrote down, and then the teacher, who is going to be probably me, is going to walk around trying to hear and listen in and then drop corrections. And then when the next class starts, I'll give their quizzes back so they know what they did wrong. This part 5 wants us to demonstrate an activity. I just don't know how to do that through this video. I know I refer to this, but I guess what you're going to end up hearing is me saying that I don't know how to demonstrate this without an audience. So I guess you could just imagine what I just explained. Anyway, I seriously gotta go. So thank you so much for your time and listening to this. I wish I could make a higher quality video, but my equipment is actually really old. And yeah, thank you so much.